Too much technology, too little time. All right, here we go. All right, Wednesday, January 21st of 2026. Sorry that it has been all over the place in trying to finish this round of the course. We find ourselves in week 11 with only 1 week after this. And then I will take a shorter break this time. Usually I take 2 weeks off and we start the whole course over again. I'll only take a week this time, I promise. And we will get right back after the 12 steps. And again, I think just to make this very clear, let me see if I can't show my, should be able to see in a second here, the topics. Tell me if you can see the topics. Can you see the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan topics? Okay, good. Awesome. So again, I think it's important for me to reiterate, especially all the Griffin agents out in Seattle, Griffin agents, wherever, Arizona here, and then the TRCers. The intent of this class here, these 12 steps, is to show you strategy. As you all know, I coach one-on-one each week, Monday, Tuesday, heavy, back to back like a doctor. And it is all about trying to get top producers to get a new perspective from top down, which means strategically first, getting up above the business in its entirety. I had to do that to myself, for myself, for many years to get out of this just tactical mentality. Where are the leads? How do you convert them? That's not a business plan, and it doesn't lead to the right result. You can sell some homes like that, but it doesn't lead to the build out of a business. If you just slow down and you get above the real estate agent business from the top, you can see its bone structure and you can understand, why we have to spend some time thinking about how does the business really work, so that when we go down and we do the tactical things, for example, choosing the right type of lead, saying the right type of thing, making the right type of offer, that all takes a strategic viewpoint first before you ever come up with a tactic. I wished somebody had rapped me on the head and told me that this was the way to do it much earlier than the time my lights came on in my own stadium and I understood, I'm making some real strategic mistakes here. To that point, what happened to my business was, yes, I sold a lot of transactions, and like a lot of top producers, I was more than happy to go up on the stage and get my award for being a top producer in transactions. But what nobody sees behind the scenes with top producers is the gobs of money they spend to get the lousiest leads that have nothing to do with listings, that drive the entire business. So you don't even realize that some of our top producers that are non-listing agents primarily are really running very unprofitable businesses. I'm not saying they're not turning a profit, but they could be so much more profitable. And that's why I named this course that, because it's a business course. And the idea in this business course is to teach you that there are indeed steps that you can take, whether you're brand new, you've been around the business a long time, to become profitable. And that's really important, right? So in the first week of this course, we explained that model. Actually, I was aware of it pretty early in my career, but not fully aware of how to take advantage of it, because the book that leads to this strategic approach is called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. We talked about that in week 1, and we show you the model. Week 2, when you're running a business, if you've ever seen an income statement for any business, the most important thing to understand is that that income statement starts with the word revenue. Right? Gross income. In our world, we hear gross commission income. We hear that, but that's revenue. That's the top line. So in the very most naive, juvenile way to start off business goals, you can start off with a gross revenue goal that's rooted in reality. We go through that in week 2. Week 3, which I might flip this around the next time and open with this. I'm going to be in Canada in March giving the keynote speech for Metro City and their big event up there, and I'm going to do the head stuff. I would tell you that I can teach all of this to you, but if you don't understand how your subconscious works, how it can be programmed to create this self-image that's consistent with becoming a profitable real estate agent, then you're nowhere. Because it's always us. We are the biggest, most dangerous problem in the business. We talked about that week 3 this time, but like I said, probably going to open with it next time after the model one. The content marketing versus social media marketing. Everybody says, how are you going to market this? How are you going to do this? How am I going to get my word out, my name out there? It's all nonsense. Marketing starts with the right kind of content that you create. A market update. We taught you how to do that in week 4. We showed you how to incorporate that into what's called the next week, a unique selling proposition package, and how the marketing really comes together in weeks 4 and 5. But having you understand what is an ideal client so you can target an ideal client, not just I'll do business with anybody because I want to sell something, but really trying to get that ideal avatar. And then week 7, after all that work, you can finally say, all right, now let's talk about the acquisition of the correct type of leads, especially seller leads that are hiding in plain sight. And of course we talk about buyer leads, but in our world of this Michael Gerber-esque model, we have a burgers and fries mentality. It's all about teaching you how to acquire listings at or above the median price so that you're in control of the business outcome. You can control the commission rate, especially on your side. You really always don't have that leverage on the buy side. And you certainly don't have the leverage of a listing where you can do so many things with it. So we talk very, very specifically about the order of things with lead gen. But then it still stuns me how many people just default to winging it. Well, I went to the door and I said, well, you said what? Well, that's not what we teach you. We teach you very specific words on how to articulate the unique selling proposition. If you don't follow those, you're winging it. And especially if you're new to the business and you're up against other people that have resumes, big companies, you have just taken away your whole unique ability to compete, right? So scripts become wildly important. I would tell you, again, I've always known the power of a script, but never so importantly as I have in the last probably 5 to 10 years maximum, where I really was able to zoom in on this stuff and understand how important it was to stay scripted. Then after all that, guess what's going to happen? It's going to work. You're going to learn how to turn a lead where you don't know why somebody's doing something or how motivated into a prospect. So this act of prospecting is the core of any business, new business development. We're always trying to go from 0 to hero when the truth is what we should be doing is just understanding we're trying to create a contact from a lead disposition, meaning we don't know why, we don't know how motivated on a scale of 1 to 10, into a very genuine, oh, this person has a real why they want to sell. They have a high motivation to sell at a 9 to 10, maybe not right now, but into the future. And that's what leads you into this idea of protecting these hard to find prospects. Leads, they're abundant. They're everywhere. Listings expire every day, for sale by owners, somebody passes. There are so many listing leads out there, you would be overwhelmed by all of the opportunities. So it is hard when you get a lot of leads to go through to find the good prospect, and then you have to be super disciplined. That's why week number 9 is so critical. You have to be disciplined in staying in a follow-up scenario where you're continuing, key point here, to give information to those prospects. So you're not calling up and saying, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? You're saying, did you get the information yet? Did you get the information yet? Did you get the information yet? Great. And here's what we think is happening in the marketplace. By the way, are you still thinking that you'd like to sell in June because you're downsizing? Good. All right. Now, remember, when we get closer to June, the next thing that I would do is come over to your house, give you tips on what to do and what not to do, and then do an analysis of everything I'm sending you that's sold so I can analyze it and tell you what I think that means for you to include what you'd walk away with after all expenses. So you're moving in this direction with these prospects that you can see on your contact pipeline manager that we taught you about, right? So you can see that. And then when you onboard a client after all that beautiful setup, all you're doing is executing on the plan for the seller and the buyer that you showed them, that you promised them. It keeps you disciplined. It keeps them understanding what you're doing. And when that happens, everybody, you and the clients, are gaining a sense of control and process so that you're not nervous to talk to your seller about a price reduction because you talked about that like I did sitting in what is potentially a $5 to $6 million house today. I said, this is a very specific plan. This is exactly how it's going to work. And you can expect that from day one, right? And then that leads us to tonight. After all that hard work, now you get a contract. Now there's an agreement, and it almost becomes a mini business in and of itself. Now, I know you didn't all wake up today going, I hope he talks about the closing process today, but this is a money-making process. And it's going to set us up for the final course of past clients, which is truly the asset we're trying to create throughout these whole 12 steps. A business that creates a great past client is building an asset base upon which the new business development accelerates. So tonight and next week really are very important, because all of that stuff that just happened, look at how many weeks I have to go through just to get you under contract. Now, after all of that, and you're probably, some of you too young to remember the game Chutes and Ladders, some of you aren't. It was a board game that you could go all the way up the top, and then you could go zoom right down if you landed on the chute, right? Which was the slide. You went right back to the start. Well, that sucks when it happens in this business. You get something under agreement, it falls apart. And sometimes you can't put it back together, especially with buyers. Sellers, you're under contract with them for a certain period of time. That's why another reason I love sellers. Whereas a buyer, sometimes you take them out, you negotiate something, and they get a bad taste for you and your ability if you lose a deal. And sometimes you lose them. So it's a very, very important process to set yourself up going into properly. And there's a lot going on. Listen, I'll tell you, I've had a couple of closings recently where post-closing, both were buyers. There were challenges, one with a walkthrough, one with a post-closing, like they were bitching about the lack of the home inspection, finding certain things. I'll get into both of those tonight. One really happened post-closing, during closing, but these are issues that come up, right, when you're under contract, and you have to deal with them. When the dog bites, you got to lean in on these types of issues, okay? So that's going to bring up the lecture part of this. Let me just show my screen and make sure. I'm going to do my best to try to show it. Something's wrong with StreamYard tonight. So all of you that might be on YouTube or watch the replay over on YouTube, let me see if I can't get this to work correctly. And then we'll get this going here. Okay, sharing this tag, good. I think I look okay. You should be seeing how you close is how you grow. Are we seeing that before I start the slideshow? Good, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get going. So why is it important to be strategic during the closing process? Well, a strategic approach allows you to care for your client at the highest level during the closing process, because that's when they're the most anxious. So, this is the largest financial and emotional combination of a transaction most people will make in their entire lives. And even savvy financial people who are dealing with major transactions in the businesses that they're involved in, they still get anxious. I mean, some of my clients, I can tell you, biotech entrepreneurs, another biotech venture capitalist, a chemist. I mean, I'm talking some really smart people that I've been doing business with. And I am telling you, they flat melt down during one of these processes. And they're nervous about a lot. I have one right now, my client, the chemist, a drug manufacturing consultant. She's extremely bright and extremely detail oriented. But in the beginning of the closing process, and really a little bit during the negotiation process that led to us going under contract, she was very anxious during that period of time, because as she gets closer to it becoming a reality, that makes new complications in her life while she's busy. Multiple board meetings. If I told you some of the companies that she's consulting for and some of the foundations, you'd be like, holy crap, those are like household names. So she's an anxious person to begin with from her business, and I'm supposed to be here treating her at the highest level. And by the way, during this closing process, Dawn said to me, she should look at, I love the combination of you and Laura, but see, you just calmed me down. I need to talk to you. I said, Dawn, there's no reason to talk to anybody but me if that's the way you feel. And that's an example of the highest level. That's a real deal happening right now. And by the way, she has two other properties that are luxury. This one's a 13750 sale, but she has a 22. She has a 17. So she's got these three beautiful properties where she parks her money, and that's her investment portfolio, or part of it, right? So of course she's anxious. She's busy, and she has this portfolio. She wants top dollar. And then once they get in a deal, people don't want to lose a deal. That's what I just said to you. There's a lot of anxiety about crossing T's and dotting I's to get through this, not the least of which is the home inspection. So during a lot of that home inspection time, you can negotiate a deal where, oh, it's as is. Yeah, there's no such thing. That's just a soft way of saying you're not going to renegotiate this deal. Now, Gail Rossetti, one of my one-on-one clients out in California, in her area in Palo Alto, Atherton, think Facebook, think Google. That's where a lot of the people live there and the companies are based. They do have a methodology where they'll do a pre-inspection before the property goes to the marketplace, but that doesn't completely eliminate the ability to have something discovered that's wrong with the property that nobody knew, right? Which is, by the way, why it's a good idea to have a seller do a pre-inspection with a home inspector, right? Costs a little bit of money, but it's a good insurance policy per se going in to reveal all of the things that you know about the process, right? So highest level of service. Highest level. A lot of you might get this under agreement and you might have a closing coordinator like we do, but I see my closing coordinator much more so as a guide to cross T's and dot I's so that it frees me to be there with the people. And you'll see me talk about that here, right? So what do you need to focus on when organizing the closing process yourself? Underline, highlight the word yourself. Well, when you organize the closing process by yourself, you must be proficient at crossing T's and dotting I's in a checklisted manner that focuses on critical dates and deadlines. It is surprising to me how we neglect the relative obvious that when we go to write up an offer, are we thinking about those critical dates and deadlines that we have to meet? So if you just get above, say, for example, an offer, and you look at all of the blanks, those are the critical dates and deadlines I'm talking about. And so depending on how well you've versed your buyer, let's take a buy side, for example, your buyer has to be properly prepared in a plan too, so that when you get to writing the offer on their behalf, you know that they're pre-qualified, or you know the banker, and you know that they can close in what? X number of days. That's a critical deadline. If you want to be competitive on, say, a multi-offer deal, and they're getting offers that say they need 45 days to 60 days, if you've been organized and you're working with a banker that you can trust or a mortgage broker that you can trust, that they can definitely meet a deadline of 30 days, well, just because you're more strategically prepared, you can offer something that gets accepted that's a much tighter time frame that you can perform on. Because you've thought about this strategically in advance and you say, what would it take for me to be this? Now, of course, you're not going to wing it and make it up and try to tie a deal up and lie about it or just hope it works itself out, unless you really want to create yourself a very poor reputation and cause a lot more anxiety, which, by the way, leads to a very unhappy past client. So this stuff really matters that you understand, and you should all take a look at an offer and think about that. What is a reasonable time for you to get a hold of, for example, the first part of this, an inspector? And in Massachusetts now, there's been a lot of pushback as waiving the inspections. It's not really something we have to sign a form now about inspections that really just states they have the right to do an inspection, should do an inspection, etc. It doesn't necessarily mandate it like I thought it was going to, but it just puts everybody on alert that the consumer has been notified that they have every right to do this. And that prevents realtors from telling somebody haphazardly to waive an inspection. Now, I'm not saying that a savvy buyer might not waive an inspection because they don't care. I would be one of those people that if I thought I was going into a competitive situation, I'd take the house as is, where is, myself after going through it. I might have somebody come through with me, like my building inspector, before I put my offer in, just to give a quick once over so I don't miss something structural, or a builder, maybe. But the idea is I need to know that stuff up front so that I can protect that buyer. Now, on the sell side, if an offer like that comes into us, can that party on the other side bringing me the buyer, can they perform? So before I would ever accept something and pull it into our closing module, hence taking it off the market and taking market risk, I'm going to have me or Laura call the mortgage broker and vet them. How far are you actually with this file? What have you done? Can you meet this deadline that's being offered? So we're not even going to rely on that buyer's agent. We're going to do that due diligence ourselves and ask that. Because remember, my seller client is anxious and wants to know that. Right. And again, going back to this one with Dawn, the idea was, listen, I'm not going to do anything, on a home inspection. Right, Dawn, unless there's something structural that we haven't seen, then we're going to have to deal with it, period. Right. And of course, she says yes. Right. Well, we went through the inspection and there's a block part of the foundation where ironically, it was a simple problem to be fixed, but there was an outdoor shower on the deck that was just leaching down through the floorboards, and it was running along this brick, and it had worn out the mortar. Well, the good news is there was no really structure problem, but the mortar had been worn out. So the buyer had to do a secondary inspection, even though they had put their offer in as is where is. They put this offer in. We had somebody come out, and there wasn't a structural problem. And the buyers really want the place, and they knew in good faith they had said this, so we got through it. But that's my point. Like, you have to be able to, take this thing off the market, get it in your seller's favor the best you can, but warn them, say, listen, I can continue to market this, but the rules are it has to be contingent, with these, under contract with contingencies continue to show. Well, that's a wet blanket on our told her. So I said, we have vetted these people the best we can. I think they're truly enthusiastic about this property. So we have that risk. So I fully explain that to her. And I say, and yes, the time frame, I tightened it up because with an as is where is deal, we shouldn't have to go through too much. We should be able to get to the purchase and sales agreement. In our state, we do offer then purchase and sales agreement. Some states don't do that. So I told her, we got to get through this home inspection, even though it's as is. We did. And I went to the home inspection. I went to the re-inspection, and I sat there to make sure that nobody tried to manipulate this. And I continued to be there, crossing the emotional T's and I's with the buyer, because their buyer broker is a good guy, but he was in Hawaii. So I had them to myself, and I was able to tell her, these people are real, they're enthusiastic. And I just kept bringing her anxiety down, because there was a point in time where during this, ask for reinspection, well, they told me, right? So your seller can start to lose it and get all worked up. I said, hold on. I think it's in good faith. Let me get the picture of the inspection. Here it is. Well, I showed it to my husband, and he's an engineer. And if they want to talk to him, so you can really lose somebody in this stage to this, spot, because, she said, if they don't want it, then I'm confident you'll get another deal. So they just start to talk themselves into a frenzy. So all of these critical dates, deadlines, and processes really matter, right? Now the question is, okay, you did it on your own. That's a lot. It sounds stressful. But the next question is, should you delegate your closing process to somebody dedicated to do this, right? Hey, guys, watch your mics. They're all open, okay? Should you delegate your closing process to somebody who helps you? Well, it depends on what brokerage you're at. At our brokerage, we have somebody that the company pays for that oversees all of the paperwork. Number one, I want compliance so that we are legally compliant. But number two, I want a second set of eyes and ears on a situation to alert the agent who's involved in the deal that there may be a problem, or we might need an extension. Because the reality is, you do need extensions during closing processes sometimes for unforeseen things, okay? So should you delegate? Yeah, it's always best practice is to have somebody help you during the closing process. Also to leverage your time. I think a lot of you don't come out of the womb dying to cross T's and dot I's, which is why this subject is not our favorite as real estate agents. But my goodness gracious, if I attach your money to it, that's attached to this outcome, and you've got about a 35 to 40 day window to babysit your money to get across the finish line, you'll understand why this is so critical. But there can also be a lot of mistakes made during all that paperwork back and forth, especially like in our state, where you're trying to go from the creation of an offer to a purchase and sales agreement. I love that we have Jamie overseeing that, because in our state, we don't have escrow title companies where a lot of that gets taken care of very efficiently. We have attorneys who can be hit or miss. And we have, to deal with these post-home inspection issues. So you've got two attorneys, you've got two brokers, buyer, seller. There are a lot of parties to orchestrate here, and a lot of that paperwork going back and forth, because the attorneys always want to show you how much they're worth, because it's almost like they have this insecurity being involved in a deal for 30 to 45 days. So sometimes they'll attach addendums and they'll add language. It's just mind-boggling, right? But they do. So to have somebody help with that paperwork in particular, and who's really attentive to detail, they come out of the womb crossing T's and dotting I's. It's best practices, because that helps you get some of your time back. Because if that's you, guess what's not happening in the 12 steps? You're not all the way back at the front trying to create new prospects. You're losing time, and you're probably paranoid to lose this money. You just don't gain any time. So time management is a really important thing. Number one, the systems will help you gain time because you're following them, right? Like if you're door knocking, for example, and you're not following scripts, you're losing time because you're getting no's based on you winging it, not necessarily that the offer didn't land. So there's time management throughout this entire systematic approach to this business, but especially here. And this is really like the insurance policy. So if you can get a closing coordination coordinator involved, that's what I recommend. So which part should you delegate, though? This is a key point, right? Well, it's best to delegate only the tactical parts of the process, but not the human interactive with your client, which is exactly what I just told you about. So Jamie's going back and forth with attorneys and paperwork and all that. Laura's overseeing that. But I am there to be talking about that moment of emotion. But once we got it under agreement, we got a huge check. So I'm holding a ton of money. There's no more contingencies. These people aren't going anywhere. So my client now is fine dealing with my teammates on the tactical parts. What do I mean? Like, okay, do they want me to leave the cable box? Nope, they want you to take it. So that's just tactical stuff. So she's now calmed down. So she's just asking some tactical questions, but it's me that picks up the phone. And I will pick up the phone probably tomorrow. I was away last week, and say, how we doing? Everything good? Right? But you came down, you got the stuff that you're taking with you. You good? Do you need me for anything? That's the human interactive part, because I want to birth her as a happy past client, right? So what's the best outcome? You end with a client who feels like you cared about them. Because it's very easy for this emotional person during this emotional 30 to maybe 60 days, maybe longer if you have some strange, home contingency, which we did. We had a really mess of a situation with one contingency to the next contingency to the next, a three-way string. We pulled it off. It went down. Everybody's happy. But I really, really want to end up having somebody understand that I didn't abandon you once I got you under contract. And I used to. There was a period of time where COVID made it easier for me, where I'm not expected at these closings. A lot of them are happening virtually or power of attorney, or they're meeting my attorney, who we explain is part of our team. But they know I cared because I've been in contact with them. And then we're right there, with a closing gift, et cetera. So all of that's really important, right? So an excellent closing process sets you up to create a happy past client, which we will talk about in the final week, right? So really important to understand that this closing module is in and of itself a pretty complicated business that has a time, the accordion of time is crunched. So think about it. You go out and list a property for 6 months. It might take you 2-3 months if they're good clients, price reductions, et cetera. That's a long time, right? And you're not under that kind of pressure because nobody's moving either, just hoping for an offer. Here, you're moving. You're moving. I mean, I checked in on this elderly brother and sister who are past clients of mine who sold and bought, and the buyers of theirs hung in there trying to sell theirs. They lost, and that broker's great. They lost 3 deals before they could get it done. The broker in the front was starting to get, a little skittish with us and was going to go with somebody else, but we kept it together. But I went to their house pre the smoke inspection and moved a couch around, moved a table. Really, it was sort of under the guise to just check in on them. And I'm telling you, she looked white as a ghost. He was nervous, but our movers are excellent too. So everybody did a good job keeping these people calm. I still can't believe at their age they pulled this off. But sitting here tonight, knowing that they know they were cared for, they're probably just recovering from the exhaustion. We left them far better than we started with them. I had sold them this beautiful house. They made a ton of money on it. Great timing. They downsized into a beautiful condominium, perfectly clean, just ideal. I'm so proud of them, but I'm more proud of my team that during that closing process, which did get extended, that we just, from Laura massaging everybody to stay calm. I actually went out to the buyer of our contingency. I went out to their house with the broker, looked at it, reported back. Yep, that's a good house. He's on it. He's close. This is going to come. So there's a lot of that human interactive stuff that matters. But in that case, there were multiple extensions that were required. That paperwork had to get around. We needed to be out in front of that before it expired, right? And even, for example, now we have, we just put something under agreement. And I know that I saw the paperwork between Laura and Jamie going back and forth. We needed to extend the listing contract so it doesn't expire in MLS during that process. So we needed all of our paperwork tight. And we are just dialed at this point in time. Okay. All right, so I will stop sharing those two things. That's enough of that subject here tonight. I will take any kind of questions about the closing process right now. But as you know, this is a free and open coaching call too. So I will take calls about any part of the business, any tactical, strategic questions. But let's just first ask if there's a question about the closing process that we went through tonight. I'll take that first. Otherwise, you have me for about another 15 minutes. So your mic should be open. I didn't mute everybody, but go for it. Okay. Yep. Yep. Go for it. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's awkward. I think that's no, I don't think that's awkward. I think it's a good play. I mean, the when you're door knocking, you're really hoping that somebody's sitting still, right? I mean, they meet you at the door. You get to be able to just run your script at the door. But I think knocking on someone's door and they're on the phone, I think you probably set yourself up for failure, right? So, but if you think or you were relatively certain that he was the owner, good, you know what he looks like, you know what he drives. And so now when you drive by, there's no guessing. You'll see his car, right? No, no, yeah, that's right. No, I think that's a smart play. Nope, I think you read that one well. Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying that. Go ahead. Yeah, no, that's that yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. Well, look, we're trying to maintain a level of professionalism because we are interrupting people's lives when we telemarket or we do in our market, right? We're interrupting their lives. It is cold. It's what we offer and how we offer it is super warm and different and giving, but let's not be delusional. It's still a cold introduction. It just happens to be we have a freebie that is really beneficial to them because we've been so strategic for so long. But you don't want to force yourself into a circumstance that is not the right circumstance. That's a good professional decision on your part, I think. Yeah, super. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, don't feel bad because if they tried to sell and they're still genuinely trying to sell, you have the goods to give them, right? And again, it's owning that unique selling proposition package of information. If they are thinking about doing it, they want to know how the market is, and you have the cheat sheet market update for them to know exactly what's happening quantitatively. You have 5 or 6 properties that sold straight from MLS, a map, pictures, details, descriptions, wildly helpful and organized just for them. And then lastly, the thing they need, which is to review a plan and say, I did or didn't follow a plan, right? So no, I mean, you have to own that that's really beneficial to them. So be careful of feeling bad. That's not what this is. It's just that it's more unfortunately the timing wasn't right, right? Yeah. 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 Well, it's just, the clear no is more so again about whether this information is helpful to them or not. And the only 2 reasons it could be are what? What are the only 2 reasons it could not be helpful to them? Good or no? That's it. No. What else? Anybody? There's only there's only 2 reasons why a package of information made by us given to them would not be something that's a fit. One is, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's another agent. You got it, Phil. It's in the script, everybody, right? It's in the mind maps. Strategically speaking, you can get out of your own head. The only reason why there's not a fit is their plans genuinely change and they're not going to sell inside the next 12 months. Or they're committed to an agent. It's over. If they're committed to an agent, it's over. Do not interfere with the relationship that they have. You made your pitch, you told them what it was, and you find out if there's an agent, you don't want to interfere with that. Or their plans generally change. And that's a good clean no. That's what we call. So all this objection handling. Yeah, yeah. But all this nonsense out there in the internet and all this coaching, objection handling. Well, why? What do you mean, objection handling? You can't change somebody's why. You can help them clarify it, no doubt about it. That's why we ask those questions. But you ask it after you have this genuine gift of information that even if they did take it from you and didn't do anything, you left them better than you found them. But the idea of offering that is so they will feel comfortable opening up to you and saying, here's why I'm doing it. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I can see myself being a 9 to 10 inside the next 12 months. Why 12 months? Because you all don't have capacity to go much further than that until you get used to this business, right? And that viable prospect that you just created, you actually, if you can get a yes, and they're not right now, and they're not going to, go, well, good thing you came. I'm going to interview 2 or 3 people, and because you came, you can be included. I don't like that for you all as much as I like, you know what? Thank you so much for this. This is helpful. Let me take a look at it. Okay, great. You take a look at that. I'll follow up. And the next step would be, if you are thinking about selling it sooner rather than later, I can go back to my office and I can do an analysis of everything I gave you that sold in there, including a net sheet. And I'll come back and give you tips on what to do and what not to do to get the high end of what my evaluation says. Right? So you're always making like sometimes if you got lucky and there was a blue moon event, that stranger lets a stranger through the door in a day like this is very rare, if ever. Right? So the idea is here, was that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would neither. I would want us. Yeah. Go ahead, Paul. No, go ahead. Come on. That's good. Go ahead. Yeah. What was your, yeah. Right. Yeah, you make the well. No, I want to. Yeah, yeah. No, good. I would just say, yeah, no, 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 absolutely. That's exactly right. Because it's the same thing you would do on a listing presentation, but this is almost like a freebie or a pre-listing. Say, sure, let me just take, yeah, I'll take a quick tour of it. And then after that, I'm going to leave you with the package, but I will go back to my office and I will analyze those solds now that I've seen this because it's critical that I see the property. I'll analyze it. I'll make you a net sheet that shows you what you would walk away with. And then I'll come back and give you tips on what to do and what not to do as I customize the 7 steps. But I'd like you to review it first. Absolutely, Paul. Right. Yep. Yes. Yep. 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 Yeah. Right. But hold on. But is he here too? Is he on the call? Okay. But that's the answer, right? The answer is just understand this is a very simple process. We're going to give you pictures and details of properties that sold around yours straight from MLS, right? So while you're on, if it's an expired, while you're on, you could see what sold. Then there's a one-page market update because I know you're wondering how the market is right now, loaded with data. But most importantly, there's a 7-step plan that you can review what happened the first time you tried against my plan. Okay. So what the next thing is after you digest this and you see I'm legitimate and you see the information's legitimate, there's more. But that requires me to see the property. So, Paul, this is where you and I talked about the old 2-step versus the 1-step. I've grown so confident that I can do the math and I can bring that math and I can just see this property. Is it average, above, or below? And I'm just going to start to work into that number, right? Because we would have asked them, most importantly, what do you think it's worth? Plus, we've got the cheat sheet with the algorithmic stuff online, he said. Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com all have an algorithmic approach. So I would have several values. One, what they were hoping it was worth. I would look at what the buyers are going to look at. I would look at my own math. I just have so much cheat sheet stuff that I go in and I'm looking and say, okay, this is reasonable, right? Or it's not. And even today, Paul, correct. And yeah, yeah, exactly right. Exactly the point to all of them. All of you should listen to what he just said. You have so much data that pricing is not really rocket science. You do need to know how to speak to somebody about it. You can't hit them over the head and say, well, you failed at 700,000 and here's 3 at 670. You have to lead them with the evidence, which is why we teach you so much quantitative, simple, but quantitative stuff. Good. Danielle, what was it you were going to say? You want to say something else? Hold on. Hold on. You're trying to do that all in the first beat, the first day? No, no. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. You mean you're doing the analysis and the net sheet at the door knock? No, no, no. Hold on. No, no, hold on. I'm saying the very first time you go up to the door, you're bringing an analysis and a net sheet and trying to get in to give the whole presentation. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I'll tell you why. I want to develop an avatar the right way because they're going to become my client and I need them to behave a certain way. If you go in there and it's just this rush job to get to know you and get to see it's not selfish, but it's selfish. Okay. And what I mean by that is you're trying to get it all done at once. You're rushing a process that I think works better if they get a chance to take the information. They've now seen you, they digest it. They vet you. They go looking for you on social. They go looking at the company. They have a chance to digest who the heck are you? You just showed up at my door. So, and your upsell is, why don't you take the time to take a look at this? I'm going to go back and do more. I'm going to analyze what I just gave you, right? And I'm going to do a net sheet. And then when I come back, I'm going to sit down with you, go over the analysis, and give you tips on what to do and what not to do to get to the high end of the range. So you're squeezing the process too tight, because here's the problem. You meet them at the door, you go through all this, and now all of a sudden you're gone. And you don't really have that relationship established yet. So now what? It gets a little bit more dead-ended there. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't do it, because I like a more of a process. In my experience, which is vast with this, when they got the stuff and they digested it, then they let me in, right? Because there was some follow-up subsequently after that. It's a better process. Yeah. No, I'm good. Yeah. I don't think it's look at again, I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. That's thoroughly prepared. I'm teaching you more. I don't like that, because I like the full process. Because in my experience, if they take that information, what they're doing is digesting how professionally you presented yourself at the door, how thoughtful you were to put this information together, and then let that be something that opens them up to be more interested in hearing more from you. You're magnetically drawing them in. If you have it all there and you give it, it might be helpful, but you didn't build as much of a relationship. And my concern would be, what did you tell them the follow-up would be when you were done with it? Because you really don't even know their why yet. You just barely found out their motivation. You just found that all out. So you're condensing everything so fast. My fear is you don't have enough, there's not enough substance coming together to build a relationship where they see you as unique. I will go back to my office and I will analyze the solds I just gave you, and I will make a net sheet, and I will come back and give you tips on what to do and what not to do. When's a good time to do that? Just give them a chance to digest. Can't hear a thing. We can't hear a thing. Yeah, we can't hear a thing. So just go ahead. Stay focused. Hold on. Hold on. Let's slow down. Okay. You've gone to her door and you door knocked her. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. You got to slow way down. We're going to go in slow motion, step by step. Okay. You met her. You gave her a package. Did you go in that day too? Okay. You went in that day and you gave the analysis and the net sheet. Why is she selling? Okay. So she's super motivated in February to do it again. Okay. Okay. Hold on. And he wasn't there, correct? Okay. So now, how did you leave off when you left after having completed all of the steps? Good. Stop. 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 Has that subsequently also included the most important part? Did you get it? Phone calls. Okay. And nope, 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 nope. Has she ever since that meeting spoken to you and said, yes, I got it. Thank you. Okay. Okay. In December. You haven't spoken to her since December what? Did you send the January package? Okay. When did you send it? Okay. You could call her and tell her, I've done an updated analysis for you and I wanted to swing it by. So you could go there because you've been there. Okay. But this is why I'm telling it. This is why I'm telling you. I think when you rushed it and gave her everything, there was nothing else to give. And now I think it's a little bit more difficult. I'm not trying to fit your story into my coaching. I'm just saying my gut tells me it would have been better had you nurtured it a little bit more and then gone back in to make sure you're in the hunt because there's another party to a divorce and you don't have you spoken to the husband? Okay. Okay, that's not good. You don't have a decision maker. So you're only representing anything for her. What you should hang on, hold on, no, no, you gotta do listening. You gotta do listening. You gotta take your Dumbo ears like this, pull them out and listen. You're talking over me, and I'm trying to slow it down for you. You do not have both decision makers, which makes you very vulnerable. Even though she might appreciate you and like you, she's gone a little bit cold on you, but there are the holidays, but you don't have him. So I am telling you that's a very shaky prospect. Seller. All you care about is that listing. Who's on the deed? Is there a divorce decree in place? I mean, there's a lot of questions there. Do you think you have a chance to list this property? Do you think you have a chance to list this property? Do you know if you have any competition? See, the reason you don't is because you didn't go through the whole process. Here's another thing you're missing. You went up to a door. You have no seller qualifying questionnaires, right? You didn't have the chance to ask her, are you interviewing any other agents? If so, when can I be last? You cheated the process by squeezing it too fast. Are you familiar with the seller qualifying questionnaire? Okay. Okay. You have competition, you have other people there. It's a shakier thing than you think. What I could recommend is in this case, I would go door knock her. I would have taken the January package and door knocked her again. But I would be very clear that you have an opportunity to compete for this job. And who else who are the decision makers? Is there a divorce attorney involved? Is the husband involved to any extent? Because you'd like to get the information to them to support her. Yep. Yep. Agreed. No, it's similar. I was referring to it as a divorce decree. Number one, is there even like, do you have somebody who's dragging their feet and not selling it and not truly motivated? A divorce decree states it has to be sold, right? So, yeah. But you took it to the next level and of the proceeds because we did one recently, a very contentious divorce, and the settlement of funds had not been decided on. So the money went in an escrow. But we were still able to sell it because there was a divorce decree, right? In other words, you guys have to sell this per the court, right? So good. All right. What else? I'm out of time. I'm over one. I'll take, if there's anybody else has a burning question, I'll take it. Wendy. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Here's what you would ask yourself if you had, what is it? What did he think it was worth? 8 million. Okay. And you got to scale that way back. Like I said, I'd go down into like the 4.5, $5 million range. And I would say, the area in Sherburne because you live in a relatively contiguous town, right? Dover, Sherburne, Needham. How far away do I have to go from his house? If I have 5 to 8 million burning a hole in my hands, what towns am I likely to see other properties in? Right? Dover, Needham. What can that money buy? So those are the comps for you. Yep. Dan- Yeah. 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 That's right. That's all you want. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to rush the analysis. You have to mature this in, and that's why she's having a little bit of a challenge here. I don't think she did anything wrong. It's look at she just tried to do it all at once. I just think it's better if you give information and you say, now that I've seen it, I'll go back and I'll analyze it because you might want to make some adjustments. You'll slow the process down, right? Yeah, good. You're welcome. Anything else? Final call? Oh, got a couple. Go ahead, Ryan. Beautiful. Shoot. Yeah, it's okay. Seven, seven. Yeah. Well, look, the bottom line is immediately learn how to go after sellers immediately. Okay. But that doesn't preclude you from simultaneously, as a new agent, executing the open house plan, which is primarily going to track buyers, right? So it's a simultaneous burgers and fries happy meal right out of the box. It's not, here's the key word, Ryan, it's and, not or. Okay. It's and it's going after that if FISBO are expired and doing open houses, right? Because that gives you things to do on both fronts. But I want your mindset thinking as you're building that business with Paul out there. The idea is the sooner you can learn how to talk, just like Danielle and Wendy are both new and they're both successful. They both got listings. Wendy's already sold her first one. We're going to $8 million house. So you can see that that's a slower roll, but that's the build out. Whereas you could go into a hot open house that's priced well this weekend, having these buyer and seller packages made ready to give them away to a good buyer who doesn't have an agent this weekend, and you could be in front of them. So both is the answer. It's an and question, right? Not an or. And we have methodology for both. So you're in good hands with him. So once you get yourself square, you're just going to follow the yellow brick system on both. But just think of it like a happy meal. It's the burger and the fries, not just the burger. Yeah. Cool. Good. You're welcome. Somebody else was trying to ask a question there too. I heard somebody. Yeah. Go ahead, Nat. I did not. The call, I did not see a call, but I haven't sat really still. Tomorrow. Come on. Are you available during the mastermind tomorrow? Yeah. You could even okay. Yeah, well, Friday, come to the you can come to the telemarketing call. We'll take it first. Yeah, yeah, we'll take it first. That way we just slow it down and we'll make sure we get a good setup for you. And by the way, yeah, 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 yeah. Well, you make the offer. Well, you make have you delivered the package, the original package? Well, again, that's the problem. What you should do is overnight a package when you're in a dog hunt, right? I mean, when it's a dog fight, just overnight it and get it to her and say, I sent that, but I want to come by, give you tips on what to do and what not to do based on an analysis I'll do of what I sent you, right? So the more we hold back, there's already a dog fight going on. You're late. You're on the outside looking in. So send your goods overnight, get it to her like tomorrow, and then you just say, I want to come in there and do the next two things, right? Yeah. That's why the short term follow up is completely irrelevant because you haven't even given her a package yet. So I know that's the best, but you got to get them. If you're late, you got to get the stuff if you want to try, right? Good. You could do that too. Yep. You could. The answer is you could. The answer is you could miss out. You could miss out, but you can say, "Hey, listen, I was by your house today. I put the information, in your mailbox, but I'd love to come by and do these next two things." Right? So it's look at the answer to both of you ladies is follow the program, but you can squeeze things. I gave the opposite advice to Danielle. She squeezed everything too tightly, right? But in this case, you better hurry up, right? But at least always, all of you get the base package to people so they have a chance to digest. Wow, this person gave me something professional and different from these other three people I'm talking to. This is interesting. And there's what? What do you mean there's analysis? Did everybody do an analysis and a net sheet for you? Because that's free. I just got to get in the house. So you have to keep pressing your offer because it is unique. But if they don't see it and you just say it and you're late, right? I wouldn't do that. That's what I'm saying. You're already late. When did you first make contact with this lady? And what'd she say? What what slow down, slow your mind down. Shh. All of you going too fast. Slow the process down so we see it in slow motion. You see it, right? Slow it down. What does soon mean? You don't know. It means you don't know. That's what it means because you're going too fast with these people. If you would slow down and say, "Oh, soon," what does that mean? Because I'd like to get myself in there to give you this information. So, are we talking like this weekend? We're talking this month. You didn't ask because you're going too fast. You have to slow all of you and Danielle tonight. Slow down. Just slow down, right? Because you have a better chance to compete if you're slower and articulate. The minute you feel desperate or late or you're in a hurry, prospects pursued run away. But the ones magnetically attracted correctly end up being really good business. Okay. So now you said you would give her the package, right? So go drop it off. Yeah, you made the promise. I'm just following what you said. I spoke to her today. I told her I would give her the package. Okay. So why all of a sudden are you not doing what you said you would do? Because you heard the same thing on the call. Is this a reaction after the fact? Oh shit, I should have done X. Is that what this is? No, 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 no. I'm asking you a question. You said I will deliver this, right? Is that right? Okay. So you're not doing the package and delivering it. Do that. And Wendy's right. Just go pop it in her mailbox. And then what do you do with the system after you do that? What do you do? What script will you use? Okay, so why did you question that before? Because you didn't deliver the package. That's why it's not relevant. I caught you. It's so easy. Okay. Yeah. Well, what's let me ask you a simple question. What script did you use today? Okay. How far did you get? Okay. So beat three is you made the offer for the upgraded package because you're so highly motivated. Because you're so highly motivated. Okay. And this is where you said she sidestepped you, spoken like a true boxer. She sidestepped you when you upsold her to come in and give her tips on what to do, what not to do, and the analysis. Am I getting that right? Okay. So you fall, and she said what to that? Why don't you just give me the information first? Okay, great. But do you like get her the package so that the follow-up call to book the appointment, she's digested who you are. You don't have the problem that you think you have. You're just not fulfilling. You made an Amazon fulfillment promise today and you're not fulfilling. And tomorrow's only Thursday. So your first thing is exactly what Wendy said. Drive over there and put it in her mailbox and leave her a message that says, "Hey, I don't want to bother you. I know you said follow up Saturday, but I dropped some information in your mailbox today." Or text her. Yeah, well, you're complicating it because you're not doing what you said you would, and that's why you all of a sudden the system seems like it doesn't fit. Is I think what you said earlier in this call. Oh, yes, it does, but you didn't deliver the package yet. See, your follow up call on Saturday would be supported by the delivery of this information, which she would have been able to open, digest, and see that you're different from everybody else. But you're now being selfish by trying to say, well, I'll just bring it with me. She didn't sidestep you if you did this correctly. She said, yes, I'll take the package. Then you tried to upsell her based on her timing, right? And the default back is to do what? After they say no to the visit, it defaults back to what? Go open the script right now. Tell me what happens. It's all written out. Yeah, just go back to where you left off. You got all the way. Yep, go ahead. Read it. Yep. Okay, good. And then what did you say from there? What's it? What? Okay, okay, that's to call her, right? That's the, that's the default. We're trying to hand deliver it with an analysis and more, but the default is okay. Let me just get this out to you quickly, and I'll call you to follow up. Right, because it's the system. It's logical. So whatever. Well, again, when you're ever lost, go back and read that script top to bottom. it will give you the answer as to what what should I have done? Oh, I'm supposed to just go, okay, I'll deliver this and make sure it arrives. And I'll do that on Saturday. Default back to the first step, which is get the package to her. Okay. You guys are all you're pressing. I know, I love that you're all hungry. I love it. Right? 3 ladies, animals, right? All 3 of you. I love it. You can't teach that. But what I can teach you is when you're going too fast, you're leaving the scripting, right? You're not trusting what it tells you to do. They are very clear, specific, and effective instructions on how to behave. So default means fall back to where you left off. Okay. Yeah. Say amen. Say amen. Give me an amen. Right? Okay, good. All right. All right. That's it for tonight, guys. I've got to run. But very, very good questions. Excellent work, ladies, especially the 3 of you. I know you're aggressively out there. You're doing a great job. Slow down. It's all there for you, right? It's all there. And don't worry about losing somebody. Just slow down. You have to let that person have the process that they want. Okay. You said the right things. You qualified, all of you, but just slow down. That's all. Good. Have a good night, all right? Okay. See you later.